Hi everyone, welcome. My name is Gillian, and thank you for joining us today or this early evening for our workshop, the 10 Ds of Giving Days. This is the fourth workshop in a series of six where we share with you modes and methodologies on how to run a Giving Day campaign and hopefully encourage your participation in this new inaugural program, the Giving Day to the Arts. We start today's presentation acknowledging First Nations sovereignty, including acknowledging the traditional owners and custodians of the many lands that we all join from today. For me, I acknowledge the Kaurna people, the traditional custodians of Tartania, Adelaide, which is where I live and work and where I am dialing in from today. I pay my respects to Kaurna elders past and present, and I extend that respect to elders past and present from the lands where you are dialing in from. I also acknowledge and extend my unwavering gratitude to the excellent First Nations colleagues we have both the pleasure and privilege to work with at Creative Australia, and I extend that acknowledgement and respect to all First Nations peoples joining us online today too. Thank you. Let's intro who is on the call today. Hannah and Michelle, a very big hello and thank you to you both for co-hosting this workshop and for sharing Giving Day learnings. A little bit about me. I'm the Director of Business Development and Partnerships at Creative Australia. I've been working at Creative Australia for 3 years and I lead the Business Development and Partnerships team in delivering fundraising capability, which includes leading this project at Creative Australia too. I also work on cross-portfolio and for-purpose partnerships, including our own co-investment fundraising work. And I'm passionate about the wonderful work we all do in arts and culture and the expansive scope for generative social impact through arts engagement. Hannah and Michelle, can I please ask each of you to introduce yourselves and also our special guests today?
Hello, thank you, Gillian. Yes, it's great to join you today. I'm like Gillian, I'm dialing in from Ghana country here in Tandanya, Adelaide. A few words about me. I've been at Creative Australia close to 2 years now, and it's my pleasure to support artists and arts organisations across all art forms throughout the Northern Territory and South Australia to develop their skills, knowledge, and private and confidence to seek private sector support. Prior to this role, I spent more than 10 years working in the NT, working across literature and the visual arts, including many years working in remote Australia, supporting First Nations artists and their art centres. And prior to that, I worked in museums and galleries in Sydney. Over to you, Michelle.
Hello, everyone. I'm joining you here from Gadigal Land at the Creative Australia head office in Sydney. I've worked in the arts for over 20 years, including 13 years in fundraising roles at Sydney Dance Company. I joined the team at Creative Australia last February, motivated to support the sector more broadly, to decode the art of fundraising and help more artists and organisations to access private sector support and grow their communities of supporters. It's my pleasure to introduce our two guests today. So I'm delighted to welcome Courtney Stewart and Caitlin Baker, who will share their recent experiences of running two very different Giving Days later in the webinar. Courtney is an acclaimed director, dramaturg, actor, and teaching artist with a deep passion for intercultural works and multicultural dramaturgies. She is the current artistic director and CEO of La Boîte Theatre in Queensland and a board member of Creative Australia. Courtney, would you like to say hello?
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really, really excited to be joining you all to talk about Giving Day. La Boîte ran their first Giving Day just a few months ago, so very excited to be here.
Thanks, Courtney. And Caitlin is a director, dramaturg, and actor, and a staunch advocate for both the arts and young people. She is currently Artistic Associate, Development and Communications at Canberra Youth Theatre, leading fundraising for the organisation, and also currently Director of Julius Caesar, now showing in Canberra. Caitlin, hello.
Thank you so much for that shout out there. I'm Caitlin. I'm really happy to be here. I'm a great case study because I was a kid at Canberra Youth Theatre. And now I get the pleasure of every day trying to make sure that every kid in Canberra can access the work that we do, which I'm really proud to be what I do day to day. Thanks for having me.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you, colleagues. Thank you, special guests. And wonderful to see that this panel is led by some excellent women working in the arts. So today's webinar includes an overview of what we believe are the key components to running a Giving Day within the context of this new nationwide and sector-wide initiative. They include understanding the uniqueness of Giving Days, exploring different ways to engage, sharing what we have identified as the critical success factors, and an opportunity for peer learning. Before we dive in, a couple of very boring but essential housekeeping notes. Please bear with me. They include relating to today's conversation. We're anticipating our session will take approximately 90 minutes, including some time for questions and answers at the end. We're not using the chat function today, but the Q&A function is activated, so please do populate your questions, and we'll aim to get all of these answered before the end of the session. All right, let's get started. What is this new initiative, Giving Day to the Arts? So let's do a quick recap on what this new initiative is, a National Giving Day to the Arts. Launching in 2025, Creative Australia presents the first ever Giving Day to the Arts, a sector-wide fundraising initiative designed to mobilise artists and arts organisations to raise funds for their work and/or creative ambitions on a single, powerful day. This unified call to action aims to amplify the visibility of arts philanthropy and inspire greater generosity across the country. Please mark your calendars if not already. The Giving Day to the Arts will take place on Thursday, the 23rd of October. And when it does, we will actually be calling it Oz Art Day. So this inaugural event is more than a fundraiser. It's a national public movement that celebrates and elevates the role of the arts in Australian life. And by bringing together artists and organisations of all sizes for one collective fundraising effort, this program seeks to increase public awareness of the value of the arts and deepen donor engagement within Australian creativity. The ambition here is to leverage our critical mass and turn competition into co-opetition in a sector-led movement through this groundswell of increased visibility and multiple independent yet clearly defined causes to invest in Australian creativity over that one collective day or a 12-hour public campaign. What's involved? So, open to all. The program follows an open access model, encouraging participation from artists and arts organisations regardless of their size or scale. Whether you're an independent artist or part of a large institution, all are invited to be a part of this shared moment of national solidarity and fundraising. Artists and small to medium arts organisations operating under 5 million operating budgets are specifically identified and engaged to participate in this initiative, understanding that this cohort have limited resources and time for fundraising. Support was provided in the form of a micro grant, $2,500 for artists and $5,000 for small to medium arts organisations to assist in the creation of digital content in their Giving Day campaign. This investment opportunity has closed and recipients will be notified of their fundraising status in the next few weeks. To support all participants, Creative Australia is creating a suite of digital branded assets that allow individual fundraising efforts to be visually and thematically connected to the National Giving Day brand. These assets will be produced by an external marketing consultant, Marlin Communications, and will be shared early in September. More on that at the end of this webinar. The program also includes a series of free online fundraising workshops and coaching sessions open to artists and arts organisations of all sizes, hence our connecting today. These sessions are designed to build confidence, enhance fundraising skills, and strengthen the capacity of participants to attract private investment. Tailored specifically to support success on Giving Day, the workshops will equip participants with practical strategies and insights to maximise their campaign impact. And then lastly, a list of local content suppliers has been collected to assist those who seek a local creative agency to assist them in their branding. We've got 27 local content suppliers that have registered to be included in this list. It closes tomorrow. If you know of anybody, please let them know. The link is available on our Giving Day page on our Creative Australia website. And those contact details will be shared to participants upon request. All right, some components of how we can all participate. So this new program is presented as an invitation for everyone to give back in a way that directly impacts the future of arts and creativity. Participants can include many forms, including as fundraisers, be recipients of the microgrant opportunity. For anyone wanting to launch a digital fundraising campaign as a participant of the day, you're welcome to fundraise on any digital infrastructure you choose, including the Australian Cultural Fund, which is a fee-free online fundraising platform for cultural fundraisers and managed by Creative Australia. We also have allyship, so play a purely promotional role through accessing the Creative Australia digital branded assets to promote either the Giving Day campaign or a specific participant's Giving Day campaign. And of course, encourage public engagement by sharing online your own fundraising story if you are making a contribution, which AKA possibly even donating to the arts on this day. So by coming together as a nation, this program seeks to really elevate the importance of arts fundraising and show our collective appreciation for those who bring creativity into our lives. Thank you for joining us again. Thank you for your interest in participating in this program. And I'll now hand you over to Hannah to start our deep dive into the Giving Day methodology. Over to you, Hannah. Thank you.
Thanks, Gillian. So let's get deep dive down into that methodology. So as you've hopefully gathered by now, Giving Days are a method of fundraising that is on the rise. And this new initiative is hoping to capitalise and amplify this rise for the benefit of the entire arts and cultural sector. In Australia, Giving Days have been really pioneered by the education and health sectors and entered the arts 6 or so years ago, but have really developed as a successful fundraising method in arts fundraising post-COVID. You may have noticed a string of Giving Days in the last 6 months or so, with some recent examples being successful Giving Days from the Sydney Opera House, Heide Museum of Modern Art, the State Theatre of South Australia, Song Room, Adelaide Fringe Festival, Belvoir Street Theatre, the Mercury Cinema, as well as the two organisations that we have guests from joining us today, Le Bois and Canberra Youth Theatre. So, at its most fundamental, a Giving Day is a method of fundraising that is defined by its time sensitivity. Either a 12 or a 24-hour public fundraising appeal aimed at bringing communities together to raise awareness for a specific cause, increase engagement and drive donations. While defined by the notion of a day, there is, of course, more than a day's work required. And definitely involved is a lot of preparation, planning, and what we call a quiet phase before a public launch, just a week out of from the public campaign. Activities after the day are essential, as well as a whole of organisational effort. By choosing a day, you assign a specific date and time that generates a focal point for participation and engagement. Giving Day is a very active fundraising method that involves building and conveying a case for support and purposefully and intentionally asking new and existing supporters to contribute, energised by a date marked in the calendar. Giving Days draw on the old fundraising adage that there are two reasons people don't support your organisation. One, because you haven't asked them, and two, because they don't know you need the money. Well, by running a Giving Day, this becomes a moment or a day to ask, to communicate your case for support to potential supporters, to communicate why they should support you and why their support is so valuable. This new initiative of the National Day for the Arts is, by virtue of its design, our sector's powerful collective moment to make the case for the vital place that arts and culture plays in the lives of all Australians. October 23 becomes our sector's National Day to ask for support, but also to share our stories and celebrate and communicate our impact. We're really excited by what the National Day has to offer, not just this year, but in the years ahead as the initiative grows and builds momentum over time. Myself and my colleague Michelle are tasked tonight with sharing some key principles around running a successful Giving Day. We'll break down the phases of a Giving Day, including all the work involved pre and post October 23, and we'll look at the factors that we've identified that are critical to a successful campaign. We're really delighted to have this theory brought to life tonight by the experiences of Le Boite and Canberra Youth Theatre, and we look forward to getting into that. So, how are Giving Days the same or different to other methods of fundraising? So, it's worth mentioning. I'll keep going. Here we go. It's worth mentioning that Giving Day campaigns share some commonalities with many other fundraising methods, and so like all forms of fundraising, it is work. It involves time, planning, and effort. You have to ask. People need to know you need the money, and you need to ask them directly. We advocate for this quiet phase methodology before a public phase. Like in many forms of fundraising, leveraging or matching is your friend. And we need to make sure giving is easy and enjoyable for the donor as possible. And lastly, you can't ever, in any form of fundraising, including Giving Day, thank supporters enough. What makes Giving Day campaign unique, and particularly the National Day of Arts? Well, this is a new initiative. It's a sector-wide initiative, so everybody will be running a Giving Day on the same day. And so they all happen on October 23. And it's really trying to maximise the power of the digital space to create content that creates widespread public engagement across all sorts of media channels. And the Creative Australia will bring out some key messages and digital assets that will really create a national and collective push for this day. So, moving now on to the sort of thematic anchor by which this webinar and our principle and methodology is defined. We have developed 10 critical success factors that we see as critical to an optimal Giving Day. I'll introduce them to you now. So there are 10 principles. You may be aware of many already. As I said, they might be consistent. There are some that are consistent across other forms of arts fundraising, but they also really specifically serve Giving Days. So hopefully they serve as a bit of a readiness audit for your organisation as you begin the active work of preparing your campaign, realising now we're 12 weeks out from the National Day. So fundraising, planning and preparation really can begin now, ideally. So across the 10 Ds, you'll notice some are time bound. So we've got, as we'll go through them, you've got ones that are before the day and after the day, and others relate to the resources and tactics that you can activate to supercharge your campaign. All factors really play a successful part in the best day possible. So starting from the top, we have before the day. So this obviously alludes to what I mentioned already, is that work is required before October 23. It's Giving Day, but it's not just a day's work. And so you need to plan and prepare and also gather support through a quiet phase prior to the day. We have no doubt that all of you online today are time poor and you're juggling multiple projects, but in order to maximise success, you really need to start well ahead of the day. So then ideally 8 to 12 weeks ahead of the day. So moving to the second D, we've got the Department of Giving. So this is just a way to talk about the work of fundraising is beyond the capacity of a single individual. You have to be, while you might have a lead person within your organisation, and Courtney and Caitlin were definitely the leads within their organisations, you really need a whole of organisational approach to drive a successful campaign. So this needs to be a team effort with the department, as we say, assembling in support of the Giving Day activity. This team effort is most successful when it can involve both artistic and executive leadership, the board, audience-facing staff, and marketing and any fundraising dedicated staff. Number 3, data. So this relates to the critical need for a means by which you can directly communicate with your potential supporters. In terms of data, we're typically looking for data that relates to the contact details of potential supporters. So at a minimum, that's the email addresses, and ideally that also includes the phone numbers of people within your community who you can actively ask to contribute to your campaign. Gathering and maintaining audience data can be a challenge for some organisations, particularly those that present work in venues and via ticketing platforms other than those that they control. So ahead of the day, it's critical to assess what data you have access to. You also might need to explore how you can clean up and organise your data ahead of the day, as well as avenues by which you might be able to drive greater data collection of different supporter groups, such as audience members, volunteers, alumni, previous board members, program participants, and former staff. So number 4D is getting it done. So this one's simple. Fundraising is work. It requires not only planning and preparation, but action, execution, and delivery. So you've got to have time for that. Number 5 is donors. So donations don't happen without donors. This will hopefully be both new and existing donors and donors both before the day, on the day, and hopefully for many years to come. We encourage you to think laterally about who might give to your organisation, as we know that people need 3 characteristics to give: interest, connection, and capacity, with interest always trumping capacity. We aren't just looking for the so-called rich people, but first and foremost, we're looking for people who love and believe in what you do in the arts. Number 6, doublers. Doublers are another word for matching or matches. Matches or match donors might be existing individuals or trusts and foundations that you can approach prior to the day to provide match funding to anything you raise on the day. Matching is a word to describe the mechanism of leveraging, using the contribution of one person or group to incentivise others to contribute. It builds the momentum of your campaign, incentivises contributions, and both parties see their contributions amplified. In the major success for Giving Days we've seen in recent times, match funding has played a vital role, but not in all campaigns, but in many. And while attracting match funding prior to the day might not be possible for everybody, we encourage you to explore what is possible in approaching existing supporters to seek a matching pledge ahead of the day. If you can make it happen, it can become the rocket fuel that maximises your Giving Day. It's also worth noting that applications for Create Australia's match funding program for organisations +1 closes next Tuesday. For those of you who've already prepared an application, you will be able to, and should you be approved to participate, you're able to use the match funding that's provided through through the +1 program as part of a Giving Day, if that's part of your campaign strategy. Applications or successful applicants are notified on the 7th of October, noting that Giving Day happens on the 23rd of October, so it's quite a fast turnaround, but it is possible given those dates. Number 7, digital marketing. The National Giving Days of the Arts is a digital-first fundraising initiative, and as such, your digital marketing will likely play a key role in your campaign. Digital aspects might include your social media channels, including through paid social media advertisers, influencers, and advertorials. Your email list is likely to be activated. We encourage you to think about how you can use your platforms and channels inventively and creatively. Number 8, your domain. Consider the mechanism by which you might receive and collect donations. This might be through your own website or a third-party portal. More on that shortly. Then the day itself, showtime, October 23rd, where digital platforms and news media will hopefully be lit up with compelling stories of the value of the arts to all Australians. Your campaign is out there in the world and firing, and there's lots work to do to build and grow the momentum throughout the day, and we'll unpack that as we carry on. And lastly, the 10th D of Giving Day is the day after. The work isn't over on midnight, October 23rd. Thanking and ongoing stewardship are essential steps that we can't forget and we'll unpack throughout today's session. So those are the 10 Gs of Giving Day, those critical success factors we see in driving a successful campaign. Okay, so now looking here at the levers of Giving Days and the key ingredients that you can activate throughout your campaign. So they form 2 kind of key themes. The first being relating to people, and unlocking the superpower of the people and communities unique to you. So this relates to the Giving Day D of the Department of Giving. And so we invite you to think about who are the people and the communities across your networks or organisation that you can activate to support your campaign. This is likely to involve staff and hopefully have a board-led element. You can also think about peers, collaborators, others within your network. The most successful campaigns we see have, as I said, a whole of team effort and support, activate peers, alumni, volunteers, and all those various elements. Ambassadors can play a key role. They may be artists, they may be participants, they may be current or former board members, even existing donors. Giving days are most successful when we see a small army of volunteers activated, particularly on the day, through engaging audiences or previous or current donors through telephone asking. Telephone asking isn't part of every single Giving Day campaign, but as you'll hear, it's part of quite a few. Existing donors play a huge role in igniting the fire of the Giving Day. Working with existing donors ahead of the day to build a pre-pledged matching donor pool builds the confidence and momentum in the campaign. Giving days are highly successful tools to encourage your broader community, especially audiences, to participate, often resulting in their first gift to the organisation. The urgency and focus of the campaign and the use of telephones when used or other forms of communication, and particularly when coming from volunteers, artists and ambassadors, can engage audience members to become first-time donors. Lastly, I encourage you to think of your current partners and suppliers and how their audience and networks might be leveraged and activated through a Giving Day. Could your staff of your accounting firm be encouraged to actively fundraise on the day? Or could your creative partners share your campaign through their channels to their networks? So people are a huge part of unlocking the power, and also that the second kind of big driver is the digital resources unique to you. So as Gillian explained at the top of the webinar, digital content is a key component of this initiative. The people and communities you're already connected to are going to be one highly important lever through this process. The digital resources you might also be able to activate are going to be another. Of the 10 Ds I mentioned earlier, 3 fall in the space of digital resources: data, your domain, and digital marketing. As I said, your data is about largely about contact details and where you can communicate with potential supporters. And obviously accessing and storing and segmenting this data is key. A CRM or a client relationship management system can be really vital in this system. If you don't have a CRM, that's okay. A really well organised spreadsheet might work well or be sufficient at this point for a small organisation. EDMs or electronic e-newsletters, social media channels, websites are all tools to host and distribute content that tells your story of why this project, why now, and why should they support your organisation. Your fundraising platform is how your donors will receive and process donations, and where you can use elements of gamification through the platform can be fantastic, and we'll get into that a little bit as well. And lastly, how can you engage external digital media sources to amplify your message and reach new audiences and potential supporters? That might be digital advertising and also editorial opportunities. So moving now on to the platform. So I mentioned the D of the mechanism by which you receive donations. We call this the domain or your Giving Day platform. Ideally, a platform you choose has these 5 key features. So a payment gateway integration, so it integrates with your other payment systems, Xero or whatever kind of accounting system you might use. It uses an element of gamification by allowing real-time donor information, and so that the social proof in donors leaving comments and showing that they're contributing can influence others. Hopefully the platform you use can be mobile responsive, so it's accessed obviously on both a desktop and a mobile device. It can give you donor analytics, so you can see who's giving, what time they're giving, what amounts they're giving. You can track some trends and see how it's running across the course of the day. And obviously you can share the campaign via social platforms meaning it's such a digital focused campaign. Okay, so thinking about digital platforms, we do have one digital platform at use we can offer through Creative Australia, which is the Australian Cultural Fund. And so Gillian mentioned that earlier. It's a fee-free culture fundraising platform for artists and organisations and cultural fundraisers. 100% of money raised is for artists and goes to artists. So it's available to all arts and cultural Australian organisations who'd like to participate, and you can use that for your Giving Day. It can be one of the platforms. It's one of the platforms available to you. We've made some adaptations to the Australian Cultural Fund to sort of maximise it for Giving Day. And so some things to mention in terms of elements that are available and that might be utilised in a Giving Day. It has a live donation tally, so we can see that live information that comes through. It tracks the percentage. You can see how much is raised out of the total. These are functions that always exist within the Australian Cultural Fund, but are useful in this context. It has a countdown clock, so you can start at the beginning of the day and you can see how many hours are left. It will have on the day, you can have a little badge. We'll have a little badge that and a filter on the homepage, so people searching the Australian Cultural Fund can clearly identify which campaigns are related to the Giving Day. And there is a live supporter tab where donors can leave messages. So you'll see those tabs across in that image there. You've got details of where you detail the project, a gallery of images, you get information about the artist or the arts organisation. And then under the supporter tab, you can click there and people can leave messages of support. And you can also offer under the Art Dates tab information about how the campaign's tracking. Also available through the Australian Cultural Fund is a live donor data spreadsheet, so you can download that at any time. And so that's the Australian Cultural Fund, which is one of the platforms you can use, but there are a number of other platforms that are available. These are some examples: Raisely, Give Easy, Fundraising, Charity, Charitable, Chuffed. Or you might be able to use your own website if you enhance the functionality, or you may already have that existing functionality. So research is key, and thinking about the ideal features you need for your campaign. Okay, so it's almost time to hand over to my colleague Michelle. So Michelle will take you through the next section of the presentation, beginning by a deeper dive into the different tactics and activations that you can deploy as part of your giving day. Over to Michelle.
Thanks, Hannah, and hello everyone again. Yes, so there are several ways that you can choose to activate your Giving Day to the Arts campaign. We have touched on matched donors already as a way to incentivize new donors, but also existing donors. This may be an opportunity to suggest an increased gift amount to a long-term supporter to make that leadership gift, or to encourage other donors to step up in their giving. Scheduled pledges. If you're not looking to create a matched pool of donors, you could invite existing supporters to make donations at a certain time of the day. This will help to maintain momentum throughout the day and enable you to send updates as new milestones are met along the way. In-person events. This could be a cultivation event before the day itself, letting your community know about the Giving Day to the Arts on the 23rd of October and reminding them of the value and impact of their support on your organisation. Or this could be a live fundraising event or moment on the day itself, or throughout the day, moments throughout the day in person. Campaign champions or ambassadors, as Hannah referenced. Who do you know that will back your campaign and share it among their networks to help spread the word? Have these conversations ahead of time during that quiet phase when you're really assembling your department of giving. Emails and social media campaigns. So using your digital networks to ahead of time to remind your audiences about the impact of your work prior to the Giving Day. Ensuring links from the emails and socials should seamlessly connect your audiences with your campaign at the website or on the ACF or any campaign platform you choose to use, to make the process as simple as possible for anyone wanting to learn more prior to the day or make a donation on the day. And then personal calls and texts on the day. This is a great way to share in the excitement of your Giving Day, to update your donors on the results so far throughout the day and encourage them to make a contribution. Phone calls, leaving a voice message, or sending a text ensures you're speaking directly and personally with your donors. So before we move into the various phases of a Giving Day campaign strategy, I'm delighted to welcome Courtney and Caitlin back to the conversation to introduce their Giving Days. So Courtney, let's start with you. Could you please share with us a bit about Le Boit's fundraising campaign and why your organization chose to run a giving day and what you were fundraising for. Thanks.
So Le Boit ran our very first giving day this year. It was something that we had been talking about towards the middle the middle and the later part of last year, figuring out whether or not a campaign like this would be the right fit for our organization. We've had a little bit of a change in hands in terms of the development and head of philanthropy role here at Le Boit. We had someone who'd been with the organization for close to 10 years, who then moved on to a different organization. We had someone else come in, and we thought it was a great opportunity for us to I guess try something that the organization hadn't tried before. And we had noticed that our amazing colleagues down at Belvoir had a lot of success with a giving day. So we did a bit of research into the success and psychology around a giving day and kind of how it like feeds into the way in which people, I guess, engage with brands or services or organizations that they know, and that kind of capitalizing on the nowness of the way the world kind of works at the moment. And we also saw that there was kind of a once in 100-year opportunity this year with Le Boit turning 100 to shape the campaign around that milestone, which is a little different and a little distinct from the way in which I've seen and we had researched the way that Giving Day campaigns have worked. It seems that the most successful Giving Days are really kind of focused around a particular project or a particular, I guess, specific campaign. So we're kind of really hyper aware of that. But I guess because the company being in Brisbane and being here for 100 years, we had kind of felt the arms of the community around the company here in Brisbane really opening up, and I think that everyone was so excited about the birthday, so it kind of felt like a great opportunity to test the waters with this as a bit of an idea. So the target that we set for ourselves was $200,000. We had played with lots of different targets, and we collaborated with Charity, who are very, very proficient at running giving days. They've run a lot of them with a lot of arts organizations, so they understand the particular nuances of working within an artistic organization and how creative you have to get with how you deploy your resources, because there's you could always do with more. There's never enough. And really what determined that target was a lot of the work that we had done prior to the day. So we didn't set that target until the night before our giving day went live. So there was a lot of work that kind of went into, which I'll get into later, that went into securing some funds before our giving day to help us really set a target that was achievable. I think that's the thing that Charity kept mentioning to us, is that there's a balance point between being aspirational but also being achievable. I think setting a target and making sure, because it's so public, setting a target that you can achieve in the time that you set is really, really key, not only to ensuring that the giving day actually delivers in the way that you need to deliver, but the cohort of donors that came in and around the company on the day was amazing, and the feeling that they got from helping us actually exceed our target was so incredible. So we did set the target of $200,000, and we raised just above that. So we raised $219,157, which was an incredible result from a cohort of 269 donors. So we worked with our board quite consistently leading up to the day, because by the time we were kind of counting down towards the quiet period in our campaign. We didn't have anyone in that head of development role, so we kind of experienced this campaign with myself and our general manager kind of leading the charge with the board, which, you know, I think there was a bit of a silver lining in a way, because it forced a whole of organization approach to our campaign.
That's really wonderful. Thank you so much, Courtney. Caitlin, I'll pass over to you. I'll just bring up Canberra Youth Theatre slide here. So again, yeah, please share with us your fundraising campaign and why Canberra Youth Theatre decided to run a Giving Day. Thank you.
The main reason I think that prompted us to, I guess, move towards a Giving Day is the fact that, for anybody aware, at the end of 2024, Canberra Youth Theatre released communications detailing the fact that we were stripping back our production season. So our funding from bodies, I guess, wasn't keeping up with the amount of activity we were being asked to do. And so we were very transparent with our community that meant that our operations were going to decrease just a little bit. And that meant that coming into this year, we had to put a significant amount of our energy into fundraising and into development, because we basically were thinking about the fact that if we continue to want to do like world premiere works for young people, we have to increase our income, and we have to increase our income not in a flashbang way, but in a repeatable, sustainable manner. And we also dealt with the fact that we're a very small organization. We only have one full-time staff member. Like, I am part-time and I'm development, which includes grants, and I'm also communication, which includes like all of our social media accounts. And then I'm also a teaching artist. And so we came at it from the angle of, what can a Giving Day do for us around an event that already exists? So the 12-Hour Theatre Project is a cornerstone of the Canberra Youth Theatre Community Engagement Program. We do it every year. It's entirely free to participate in. Like, I think it's something like 60 to 70 young people come in and they make two brand new pieces of theatre in 12 hours. They then perform it to their family. And we were going, well, the event already exists. So the labour is already built in terms of the day. We have a captive audience. And in terms of the issue that we're launching the Giving Day on, which is access to the arts, it's a day that the impetus for it is to provide a free day of theatre, where we feed the young people and they come in and they make work and they write their own stories. And so we decided, because the day already existed, to put it on there. And then because it's the 12-Hour Theatre Project, and because it was the first time we were trialing a Giving Day, and because, like, as an organization, we had to be very frank at how little spoons we had. 12 grand was both the aesthetic option and a reasonable goal. It's nice that it rhymes, and you can't beat a rhyming title. But we decided to use a day that already existed and an audience we already had to raise 12 grand for a cause that day champions. It was a big day. We didn't reach 12 grand until the wee hours, like the 5 minutes before it finished. So it was a bit, I guess, nail biting. But we aimed for 12 and we raised about 13 grand, just a little bit over. We got that from about 90 donors, a lot of micro donors, which is just us being very honest with the community. Canberra has a very sparse philanthropic culture. Despite like a high per family amount spent on the arts, philanthropy isn't really a thing in Canberra. Not a lot of organizations readily engage in it. And so we were a small target. We got a lot of micro donations. But what we had either way was, if the day didn't succeed, we already had the success of 50 young people came and made art. And if we raised some money to make some bursaries, to do some access, that was already a win in and of itself. And so we decided to put the Giving Day on a day that already had a narrative, that already had work done out for it, and then hope in turn that narrative would then do the work in, I guess, articulating social impact, which it did, which was very nice for us, although very nail-biting, because it was like the last 5 minutes that we got a huge donation that pushed us over the edge.
Yeah, wonderful. I can imagine the buzz on the day. And as you say, it's a really great example of pooling resources and having the whole of the organization present in some way to help drive that activity. Yeah, that's great. Thank you. So how do you get organized for something like this? Planning your campaign, it's essential to have a really clear action plan from start to finish and beyond. So it is vital to ensure the best possible chance of success and to leverage the work that goes into pulling this campaign together and what it looks like beyond. You know, you've engaged your communities, they've given, they're watching. What do you do beyond that as well? So we've broken this down into 6 phases, starting here with preparation. And we've spoken to some of this already in the session, but we'll break it down a little bit more into detail. So preparation really covers 5 or 6 of those Ds. So before the day, Department of Giving, data, digital marketing, your domain. It gets you thinking about how you're going to get it done. During this preparation phase, you will be drafting and refining your case for support. What will you be asking people to support and why is it important? And how is this work aligned to your strategic plan and vision for the organization? You will be network mapping to identify key potential donors, perhaps tiering this list into those that are most connected, and understanding who you're going to ask to support the campaign and how. Who might be those leadership donors, and how will you be contacting them? Phone, email, over a coffee. At this point, yeah, potential supporters maybe from your database, ticketing data, previous donors, e-news subscribers, anyone that is engaging with you. You will be identifying your campaign milestones and developing a communication schedule. When and how will you be sharing your campaign? Let's look at the case for support in a little bit more detail. This is your opportunity to share your story, to articulate to potential supporters why your work is important and why they should support it. You're looking at that intersection of the need, impact, and credentials. Why us, why now, and why them, your donors. Creating that sense of urgency as well alongside that compelling story. Your case for support will be the basis of your campaign assets and online content, video, email, social media, your website page, and as key messages for your script for phone calls or emails and other personal asks, and your broader email and social media communications. We have a couple of examples here, of course, from our guests, delighted to share about how they shared their story and built their case for why donors should support their organization. I'll first share with you this beautiful video from La Boîte.
Hi, I'm Courtney Stewart. I'm the Artistic Director and CEO here at La Boîte Theatre. In 2025, La Boîte celebrates a century of storytelling. Since our very first production in 1925, La Boîte has brought bold and local stories to the stage, stories that have shaped Queensland's cultural voice and resonated across Australia. This milestone year is not just about honouring our past. It's about investing in our future. This year, Congratulations Get Rich by Merlin Tong, premiering at Brisbane Festival and heading to Singapore and Sydney, sees La Boîte launch extraordinary work to the world from right here in Queensland. On Wednesday, the 4th of June, we're holding our very first Giving Day. For 24 hours, every donation you make will be doubled, thanks to our very generous matching donors. Your contribution will ensure that we can continue to champion Australian storytelling in our iconic Roundhouse Theatre. We can support fresh and vital voices and launch national and international careers. And we can create transformative theatrical productions that can connect communities and showcase Queensland's talent to the world. Every dollar you give is a vote of confidence in the power of Australian theatre to inspire, challenge and unite. Make a difference and donate on Wednesday the 4th of June and be part of the next chapter of our journey.
Wonderful. So as Courtney highlighted there, it is less about a specific project and about the vision for the organisation at that 100-year anniversary. Here we've got a very powerful static image with text from Canberra Youth Theatre that really hones in on their case for support, articulating what funds will be used for and encouraging people to engage with this. So if you're not in a position to create video content, you can still create these compelling images that can be used across emails and social media. So how do you identify a potential donor? We know that people already connected to your organisation are more likely to give. So you are looking for people who have an interest in what you do and are connected with you in some way. And they have a capacity to give, which could be $5, $5,000, $50,000, depending on who they are and how connected to you they are. This is, of course, a personal decision that they make. It's up to you to really nurture that connection and find those people who could be interested in the work that you do. Network mapping helps you to identify those people who are in your network and where the potential is to grow your network of supporters. So as you prepare for your Giving Day, you need to know who you're going to ask to support the campaign and how. Potential supporters may be from your database, ticketing, previous donors, we've touched on this, e-news subscribers, industry colleagues, professional networks, corporate partners, friends and family. We ask you to consider who is already connected with you in some way, starting with that inner circle of collaborators and close peers, board, staff, volunteers, ticket buyers, who has previously supported or engaged with your organisation. That could be community leaders, local government representatives, expanding that circle outwards. Who's following you on social media or subscribe to your e-news, and find ways to increase your networks. How can your ambassadors and campaign champions help you to find more friends and potential supporters that can connect to your organisation? And how might you get to know them, and how might you share the impact of the work that you're doing? Consider those most engaged as your inner circle, and further out are those less familiar with the work, but who demonstrate shared values and interests. And that falls into the acquaintances and potential networks. So before we move to the next phase, oh, sorry, just ignore that there. So moving into the quiet phase. Quiet phase covers two of the Ds. We're looking at donors and doublers. So this is the time to approach your donors and prospects about possible matched funding, making a scheduled pledge, being a campaign champion, or simply letting your most connected supporters know that you will be running a Giving Day. Your conversations with potential leadership donors will then help you to confirm your fundraising target for the Giving Day campaign. As we heard from Courtney earlier on, the fundraising target is not always the total budget for the project. It must be realistic and what you think you can raise from your community. To bring this theory to life, I'd like to invite Courtney and Caitlin back into the conversation to share their activities during the quiet phase of their Giving Day campaigns. Courtney, I'll come first to you. Can you tell us about your board engagement leading up to the Giving Day?
We, I guess, first broached the idea of a Giving Day with the board. And so there was actually quite a few conversations with them to help them understand what a Giving Day was. And what that did for us is it helped us get really good at synthesizing and quickly understanding ourselves what a Giving Day was and what the particular campaign was. So we went through a phase of actually having to refine that to be able to kind of get board buy-in to it as a concept. And then once the board had bought into the idea, we had talked to them about a collaborative effort of being able to pull together 3 different lists of donors. So we worked with them to pull together a list of top tier 1 donors, we called them, of those people we were going to approach who had long standing relationships with Le Boite and had a history of major gifts with the company. And we had identified a smaller pool of those people that we were going to either pair up with a member of the board and set up meetings and have conversations with them about being part of our giving day. So that was kind of the first big project that we did with them during the quiet phase, to be able to kind of kickstart our thinking around how we might approach the campaign and how we might be able to go about making it a reality. From there, we then stepped down to a list of tier 2 donors who we also have pre-existing relationships with, but also that were, friends of other arts organizations that Le Boite frequently collaborates with, who had a history of giving that wasn't quite in the same capacity as our tier 1 donors, and we went about making that list. And while we were making these lists, we were really clear about who held the relationships, who might be best placed to have a conversation, what type of conversation the tier 1 or tier 2 donors might prefer, whether that's an in-person catch-up to kind of walk them through the campaign, whether they prefer a very, very clear email with just kind of top line information. All of the people on the call will have knowledge of how their various members of their donor cohorts like to be communicated with. So we're really clear about documenting that, because we had a few new board members who had joined during the time during in between our decision to run the giving day and the start of our quiet phase. So there was a lot of different points of onboarding that we had to do during the process. And then we kind of pulled together a big master list of anyone and everyone who had ever had anything to do with Le Boite to be approached on the day, to let them know about the giving day and give them the opportunity to be a part of it if they so desired. So we had a lot of meetings. We had a lot of asynchronous board meetings. We had a lot of marketing and development subcommittee meetings. We usually only have about 4 a year, but we were having one every 2 weeks in the lead up, just to kind of keep the campaign ticking along and keep the heat under it. We are a very small organization as well. Caitlin was talking about the challenges of small organizations and not a huge head count. So it means that we really need our board to roll their sleeves up and I guess help kind of drive the fundraising effort of the organization. So they're the kind of things that we did, and I attended all of those meetings. I think it was really important for me to be able to. I've been with the organization now for 3 years. But I guess in the handover of the different people who've kind of held that development responsibility inside the organization, my ability to kind of understand and be across all those relationships, I was still kind of in the process of being across all those relationships. But this really gave me an opportunity to get in and amongst those relationships, understand them, and then take ownership of them as the artistic director. So I think that's been a real gift for me, and really important for me to be able to hold those relationships close and understand them. So because I can speak so closely to the work that we're doing, and I think being able to draw the lines between what our donors are passionate about and what opportunities they're seeking to be able to deliver and act on their values, and me being able to articulate how that might be possible with the work that we're doing at Le Boite and the different engagement opportunities, was a really incredible opportunity. So I think that the giving day itself was a wild and woolly process. And I think that the steps that Michelle and Hannah and Gillian have outlined here and obviously there's more to come. Absolutely, the touchstones. I think without that, it would have felt really overwhelming. But I think beyond just the Giving Day, I think what it's really given us as an organization is a newfound confidence in being able to have these types of conversations with people who love the company. And I think that sometimes these conversations can be, I think you can feel shy or awkward or a little afraid or a little unsure about how to have them. And I think that, what I really learned, what I really took home is to not overthink it and just talk about the work that you're doing and talk about the ways that you can collaborate with potential donors or current donors on being able to achieve your vision and mission. And it's also given our board that confidence as well, because there were definitely members on the board who openly said, I don't know how to have these conversations and I don't feel equipped to be able to do that. So I think kind of teaming up and being able to do it together has kind of increased our capability as an organization, that everyone across the org can dive into these conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. Thanks, Courtney. Caitlin, can you also talk to us a little bit about engagement with your existing donors leading up to the Giving Day? I'm sure there were some board in the mix there too.
Yeah, I think as soon as we decided that the Giving Day was a go, to which the board was very gung-ho for, we, particularly because we had just received, very luckily, a major donation from an alumni. Liv Hewson had given us a pretty significant donation towards our professional pathways programs. And so I think there was a lot of eagerness, I guess, that we could raise money. And then the question began, we had to hold it in balance with that fear that we get there and you set a goal and you make 50% of the goal. And then you're like, oh, this is really embarrassing and sad to look at. And so we spent a lot of time contacting our existing donor base to basically make sure that didn't happen. Like the first thing we did was, number one, we articulated what's the case for support. The idea is that 12 and 12 repeats. Every year we run the 12-hour theatre project. Every year 12 and 12 occurs, but it becomes adaptable to what we need at the time. So it might be 1 year to fund a specific infrastructure project or to fund a specific program. And we had a lot of debate because we're touring a show to Sydney about whether that would be the focus of 12 and 12. And we eventually decided against it. We went, that's a very small group of people. And for an event that's about access, we thought it needed to be launched on an access point. And then I proceeded to go into our donor database and I basically found which donors specifically expressed desire to contribute to accessibility in the arts in their gift to us. And I scheduled donations. I went, there's nothing more embarrassing than reaching the end of the day and not raising it. So I will guarantee prior to the day beginning that we will reach 50%. And that was direct contact with donors, basically saying, hi, how are you? Insert personal fact. But also, we're launching a brand new thing, and we would love for you to match your donation that you made last year, but we'd like for you to double the social impact by scheduling it on this day. And that required us to articulate the power of momentum to the donors, explain to them why, yeah, you could make this donation on, I guess, June 30, but why should you actually make it on 9 a.m., specifically on the 12th of April, to this specific donation campaign bucket? And we managed to reach a point where the day before our event had even launched, we knew we were going to reach 6 grand. Because we had donors that were ready. We had donors that were like, chuck me a text if I forget, and I'll remember to put it through. We're very lucky in that everybody in our company is a front-facing member. I'm also a teaching artist. And so some of my donors, it was talking to them as they came to pick up their kids to take them out of workshops. And it is, I guess, because everyone in our organization is always in motion, kind of weaving our donor asks into the business of the company. And that's a small thing. It's when you call them going, oh, I've just taken 5 minutes off from running a workshop to give you this call. I guess articulating the level of activity for creative engagement, scheduling those donors and following up, sending them a text at 9:05 going, hello there, Icon. I hope to see you tonight. I also really hope that you will make that donation. And it was great because it meant we also launched preemptively our end of financial year campaign because that April 12th date just happened to be when we typically launch it. It meant a lot of people got their donations out of the day, but it also meant because some people donated early on with $5 or $10, people felt more compelled to get us there. And so a lot of preparation was actually preempting any disappointment and rallying the troops that already exist. Because if you rally the troops that already exist, then people feel much more compelled to join a community. And that includes board members. We have board members that are donors, and we have board members that are case studies and prepping them to go, I know you'll attend the event. You met your wife doing this show, and now you have a baby. Would you like to speak to that? And prepping up within a pre-existing event. Who's going to donate, when they're going to donate, how they're going to donate, and how they can speak to impact. And basically setting us up that if we fail, we only fail softly. But also if we succeed, then it puts the brave community members that donated at 9 a.m. on the forefront.
Absolutely. And that is that galvanizing your community and really pulling everyone together and sharing in that beautiful success story, and then that ongoing goodwill that it brings and connection. Yeah, absolutely. Wonderful. Thanks, Caitlin. I'm going to hand back to Hannah. Thanks, Hannah.
Thanks, Michelle. And thank you, Caitlin and Courtney. And now two beautiful illustrations of that quiet phase methodology and really lovely stories there. I will actually address one question that's just been in the chat just now, which relates to setting targets. And this does really, I'll mention it now because it relates to the notion of a quiet phase. And so in both those campaigns, you heard that they really set the target very close to the actual day. And that's because prior to the day, they're able to assess through the quiet phase what interest there was. And so because Caitlin in that example raised 6,000 prior to the day, there was only $6,000 left to raise on the day. And that's a rough calculation of you'd aim to raise about 50% of what your total target is prior to the day. So if you initially think you'd like to raise $20,000, but you activate a quiet phase and try and reach out to people closest to you, and you can only raise 2,000, you're unlikely to reach the $20,000 target. And so prior to the day, you'd actually scale down your target and say, maybe we'll reach 5,000 instead. So you really kind of reverse engineer your target on the basis of a quiet phase. And that's part of the methodology that we teach around the quiet phase. And so, yes, if you've never run a giving day before, setting the target is tricky. And both of those campaigns that have assessed what the target should be on the back of what interest there was through the quiet phase. So that's how you do that. So then you are at phase 3, and I'll go through these last phases with us now, bringing Caitlin and Courtney back into the conversation at various points. So you've gone through that, you've prepared, you've gone through the quiet phase, you now know what your target should be, or you're still setting it, and you launch the campaign. And this is the moment, perhaps about a week out, when you start announcing to your networks that you have this intention of running the giving day, that you plan to participate. You may have, so it's sort of a public announcement. You've had a quiet phase, which has been direct engagement, but this might be to all your email list through the campaign launch. And so at the moment of campaign launch, you really want to see you've got some key components in place. So those key components are that you've got your website and your social media ready to go, firing and ready to go. And you about a week out, you might announce your intention to run a giving day. You've got a plan for personal texts and calls. And you might send people some preemptive text messages. In a week, we're running this, so people know on the day, if you do call them, it's not a surprise. You've engaged your networks and you've got people ready to participate in reaching out to people on the day and being your ambassadors. And you've got those digital assets. You may be using the Creative Australia digital assets for the national day, and you can utilise them and start sort of putting them out to launch your participation in the day. So here's just a little bit of some imagery of how Le Boite announced their giving day. So it looks there that Courtney spoke about those tiers of donors, and so there's that on the left there is you can't read the text, but I'm just giving you an example of kind of what it looked like. But it was a message that went out to people in that second tier. ahead of the giving day, there was a communication went out to the entire database they had via e-news or EDM. And so that was a full database EDM, and it said save the date. So it sort of gave people some warning, this day is happening, be ready for it. And then 24 hours to go. So they're really kind of warming up the crowd. People know they're going to participate, and so that's the material they released ahead of the day. So this is sort of just how you announce your launch. And it's a little bit of a nervous time, but yeah, you've got to let people know so it's not a surprise on the day when they receive a call from you or when you communicate with them directly. So that's the campaign launch. It's a small phase, but an important one. And then moving on to the fourth phase, which is the day itself. So it's, as I said, October 23rd, showtime, when hopefully the nation's social media will be lit up with campaigns all across the nation with organisations participating in it. So when we break down how to run a giving day, where you can, part of why giving days work is there's a certain kind of gamification to them. And so in order to get, you're creating this time-sensitive campaign, it's about the energy and the urgency. And so you create a series of kind of gamification elements, and they are creating by promoting certain milestones, 25%, 50% the amount towards your target, but also you can have a time-based time-based milestones. Your aim is to build momentum and create a sense of sort of creative FOMO, or fear of missing out. So people really want to come on board this moving train because it's really going somewhere, and you're building momentum. And things like those pre-pledge matching, or I loved Caitlin's example of those scheduled pledges. So she knew when the money was coming in, and that could really build that momentum over the day. You can do an hourly countdown. You can celebrate goals, and so that's really part of the strength and the kind of appeal of your giving days. It's a community effort, and people can really both contribute but then celebrate the success together. And then in both the campaigns we've heard from tonight, they actually exceeded their goal. So you might think about having a stretch goal. If we reach 200,000, what would we aim to, how much further would we aim to go beyond? And that's, people do give beyond a target. And so that's always really heartening to see. And so at what point do you introduce a stretch target? That's something to think about should everything go exceedingly well. So that's some sort of ways you might gamify the day. Then we can also look at different campaign elements. So you can break it up, obviously over percentages, but also then trying to create some momentum throughout the day. And so you might, you start out strong, you launch, we're live, we're ready to go. You've got those 9 a.m. pledges in, and then you start thinking about, how you can kind of galvanize energy in the morning. And then you're building up steam. And so you really want to kick off with energy. You might live stream a launch. You might have countdown posts. You might sort of say, why are we here? And you'll show the first donors who contribute right away. And so you say, thanks to Lucianne for being the first contributor. And then you kind of acknowledge that. You might have a mini goal. You might say, we aim to hit a specific target in the first 3 hours, like 25%, and celebrate that really loudly and proudly. And then in the 4th to 6th time, or the second time block of hours 4 to 6, you really want to build up steam. So you might do things like hourly updates, hourly updates, showing progress with visuals. You could use icons of reaching towards a certain goal, thermometers or other kind of ways to demonstrate that might relate to the creative practice of the organisation. You might have challenges in matching. You could have campaigns can be matched across the whole campaign, or they can have an hour or two that, for the next hour from 11 to 12, anything contributed will be matched or be quadrupled. So you can sort of incentivize giving at particular points in time. You could also have an ambassador takeover, when you let somebody influential take over your Instagram stories or host a quick Q&A chat. In hours 7 to 9, you might naturally see a bit of a dip, but you want to re-engage people with fun content, behind the scenes shots, some bloopers, some testimonials. You want to create some urgency. State the time block. We've only got 3 hours left to unlock our $1,000 bonus match. So you're really trying to build and maintain that momentum and not let that dip. Again, setting some mini goals. Suggest making smaller goals, perhaps every 30 minutes, to keep the pace and the pressure. And then hours 10 to 12, the final push. So you might think about a countdown clock, posting updates on remaining time, celebrating the milestones. We've hit 90%, let's go all the way. Also creating FOMO and gratitude. Highlight names of donors, show excitement, and keep on asking. So some bonus touches, you might use real-time donor wall, even just the names and initials to show people, provide that social proof as others that are giving. Think about what's unique or relevant to you. Where are our donors on the map? And how can you kind of illustrate that? You might drop GIFs, emojis, creative graphics, have fun and keep it human. And of course, there's the after once you've reached the 12 hours, what happens then? But I'll go into that shortly. So now bringing back our fabulous guests, Courtney and Caitlin, back into to the conversation to speak about their experiences on the day itself. So Courtney, just wanting to check back in with you. Can you please share with us about the activity that took place for Le Bois across the first half of the Giving Day itself? What did that look like for you?
Well, we had screens kind of all throughout the office. We have quite a small office, and we kind of occupied the annex across from where our offices are as well. And we had set up phones and snack stations and a bigger screen in there so that we could kind of keep an eye on the campaign as things were rolling in. We noticed that we had some early donations before our campaign actually was technically live, if that makes sense. So a couple of people had donated really, really early in the morning, like 7 o'clock in the morning. And they happened to be artists that we had recently been working with. So already that kind of just gave us like an injection of excitement, because we're like, oh my goodness, it's happening. Well, like we know these people, like we know them intimately, like we work with them all the time. We've made amazing work together. So it kind of gave us that extra push. I mean, we were all kind of like, our bodies were pumping with adrenaline right from the beginning of the day. We had kind of planned with charity to they really kind of took the lead in I guess guiding us through when some of the pre-pledged amounts were going to be injected in to stimulate the campaign. And because I think you want to make sure that, because people are also watching and following along, and it becomes quite mesmerizing watching, the names come in and watching the messages come up, and like, you're kind of willing that target to kind of move and move and move. And so charity was really clear with us that it's important to kind of make sure that there's never really too much of a lull in the day where there's not much activity happening. But we didn't really kind of need to kind of hit go on any of those injections until we were, I think we wanted to, I'm pretty sure we had set ourselves a target of reaching 25% of our goal by 12 o'clock, I think it was. And so we were really, really close to that, I think at about 11. So charity decided that we'd pop in one of those pre-pledged amounts just to kind of bring us a little bit earlier to kind of increase the excitement, which seemed to work quite well. One thing that I did notice is that we had engaged quite a few people to sit on the phones and call the people that we had identified as part of our tier 3 pool of donors. I don't know that I think every organization is different, but for Le Bois, what I know is that our community and our people, I think, prefer a text, or they prefer to kind of follow along on Instagram. I think the phone calls didn't yield quite the result that maybe we would have had if we were a theatre company that had a subscription-based model. I feel like that, organizations that kind of have that as a model and as a way of engaging with their different constituents makes sense. But I think because a lot of our content and our messaging is communicated to our community via Instagram and via our social media channels, and through our own personal relationships, the people who work here our full-time staff, our board, our casual staff, the artists that we work with, there's a bit more of an informal kind of direct line to our community. So we found that the phone calls, they were being made consistently throughout the day. We had people on the phones. We have every single board member come and do a 2-hour shift. I was on the phones, our general manager was on the phones, and then we had a series of volunteers who came in and gave their time so beautifully. Some really, really experienced fundraisers and other people who were more connected with the work that we do as artists. But the phone calls didn't really convert to a lot of donations, but our text messages did. So our direct text messages to our community resulted in quite a lot of donations, and some large donations as well. So it felt like a sprint. Like I felt like I had been sprinting all day. But yeah, it was very exciting. And I think that having charity there was really important to help us like kind of pace ourselves and structure the day just enough so that we were able to kind of know where we were and be able to kind of like see a little bit into the future as to how we might be going by, say, 4 p.m., by 6 p.m. Do we need to kind of like quickly re-strategize to be able to figure out what we might need to do to kind of like tick us over to that 8 p.m.?
Beautiful. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. And yeah, that's great to kind of note that about phone calls. They don't work for every organization. We know text messages have a really high open rate. So yeah, it can definitely work for some cohorts. Now, Caitlin, inviting you into the conversation or back into the conversation. So we've just heard what the morning looked like for Le Bois Theatre. What did the afternoon or the second half of the day look like for Canberra Youth Theatre in terms of the day itself?
We were very lucky in that we chose a pre-existing event because we had a face-to-face appeal. So the 12-hour theatre project ends with showings of the young people's art. And as you can imagine, when you've got like 60 kids aged 7 to 25 participating, it's really cute. Like that we didn't need to sit in InDesign or write any fancy copy. What was really gratifying about it is that because it was an in-person event, we had a social media presence, which I guess you can see. I updated our story every hour on the hour with the countdown. And then I also did kind of in between updates, and I did like, I think one screenshot that didn't make the cut is like me taking a selfie, with a bunch of 7-year-olds. And so we were really lucky that the impact narrative of young people tell stories was at the forefront of our social campaign. We uploaded a Dropbox full of some very early photos to go out to our EDM audience. And then our final push was the in-person showings. We had 2 showings in a tiny little black box theatre at the art centre that we operate out of. And the shows would occur. There were 3 pieces, 15 minutes each, like really stinking cute. The great imagery of like kids getting lifted up. And then so my boss, the artistic director, Luke Rogers, would speak. And he would speak to the ethos of the company. And then before the final ones, we'd let 2 run. We'd have 1 left to go. And then Luke would invite me up to speak. And I get a boon that I have is that I am a case study. I was a Canberra Youth Theatre kid. The first program I ever engaged with was a free program. If it had not been free, my parents wouldn't have let me done it. I wouldn't have then been a workshop kid and then a resident artist, and then I wouldn't have joined the teaching staff. I wouldn't have been employed as a director. And then I wouldn't have ended up being in the development position asking people to give again. So I would get up, I would speak to the audience, and I would basically say, this is my narrative. I would love every young person and young artist behind me to have the same narrative. That's fundamentally my goal here. And what was really gratifying about that is that it worked, and we could see it work because you would watch people get their phones out in the audience. We use Give Now, which has an embedded form on our website. We had a separate campaign from our general giving campaign that had that 12K goal. And what was beautiful is you would watch people get their phones out, send a text. We had people sending text to grandparents who then they would donate in. And it is scary because you're like, I don't want to actually ask, but there is something really gratifying of looking someone face to face. I'm wearing like a pink Canberra Youth Theatre shirt that says Theatre Maker and going, I am here because somebody decided a decade ago to make one program free. I am a case study, and I would love every kid here to be a case study. You do that, and it worked. Like we had one person who saw both shows because they're a local artist who collaborates with us a lot, and they donated 3 separate times, and each time the donation got a little bit bigger. Um, and so we had a waiting space. And then as we ended, I think we had 15 minutes left. And it was just me, my colleagues, and some of the kids that are real Canberra Youth Theatre kids. Like we shook hands on the way out. And that final in-person appeal got us over the edge. Like we got 3 grand in the last 5 minutes from a parent in the audience who was like, I've never seen my kid speak in front of a crowd before. And so for us, making it an in-person event really bolstered our community. And it bolstered people because they were there to ask, like they couldn't give. We had a lot of people that were like, I can't give, but I've texted my mother and my aunt or my sister-in-law, I think they could give. And so it meant that we had not only staff members asking and making that ask, we had an audience of people that felt like they were our phone bank. They were making their own calls because they were watching the impact live. Which I think if we hadn't done a live event, I don't necessarily think for our community and our impact story it would have worked as well. I think for us, that was our cinch hitter.
Beautiful. That's absolutely incredible. Thank you for sharing. That's what I call the tingle test. So I got the tingles there hearing you tell that case study. I can absolutely imagine how that would have felt for the audience. So yeah, really compelling, beautiful case for support in person. And yeah, it just shows you that the kind of different modes of giving days you can run. So thank you for sharing that. It's worth noting that both these case studies we've provided today are theatre companies. Neither, youth theatre company and a kind of main stage theatre company, neither have a subscription season as such. And so, Courtney mentioned that. But yeah, giving days can work for organisations of, from various art forms. They do lend themselves to theatre companies in some ways, but yeah, it's not exclusively something for theatre companies. So just worth it noting that. And so yeah, just great to see the way those days rolled out for both campaigns and all that beautiful content there. So thanks for sharing that. Okay, we're towards the home stretch on these phases. So you've had the day, you've reached your target, you've knocked it out of the park, hopefully, but the work doesn't end at midnight or 8 p.m. or whenever the day is scheduled to end. There needs to definitely be some quick and some immediate follow-up and thank you. And so that starts with a thank you. So that the most immediate response after any of the gift throughout the day, but also after the whole campaign itself wraps up, and that post-campaign work, and you really need to begin with the thank you. So we know, just next slide, we know that 80% of donors will give again if thanked by the right person at the right time. In the right way. And so we need to exceed donors' expectations. And even hearing, it sounds like people donating multiple times throughout the day because they could see the impact and they felt acknowledged and appreciated and thanked in that. So thanking in stewardship is key for 2 critical reasons. 1, because it's the right thing to do, and 2, because it's smart. It costs 7 times more to acquire a new donor than it does to retain an existing one. So if you're focusing all your resources on chasing the new donors, or pushing throughout the day and you've run out of energy to thank donors, you're losing future income and you're losing trust. So while donors generally aren't asking for gold-plated plaques or gala invites, they want to be seen, valued and involved. The act of saying thank you is the essential beginning of this work. So ideally, a thank you is immediate and personalised. A phone call or in-person thank you within 24 hours is ideal. Even a quick, sincere email or handwritten note goes a long way. You want to make it personal, express gratitude, speak to the transformative impact of their gift. Thank them for joining you in making something special possible. Obviously, a tax receipt for a tax-deductible donation are necessary, but at the bare minimum, you need to tailor the text in the body of the email that a donor receives to your project and its impact. Even better yet, embed a simple thank you, a heartfelt thank you video in the email where they get the receipt, so that at every moment they get the thank you, not just the sort of perfunctory email. You also consider how in the moment of thanking, you can list your donor as an ambassador. When you write to immediately to say thank you, can you also ask them to share the campaign on their social channels or via an email with their networks to amplify its reach? We've got an example of Milk Crate Theatre recently doing this in a campaign. It was a really impressive way to further build momentum of the campaign. So you can never thank enough. It's fantastic when an audience member can be thanked next time they enter the theatre by a box office staff member, or just sort of keep that thanking up. Thanking really hinges on this idea of growing a culture of gratitude. And so you want to thank people, deeply and sincerely, not just for their money, because people don't want to feel like ATMs. You want to thank them for their belief, for their support, for their engagement, for their connection, for their trust, and really sort of go beyond just oh, thanks, that was great, to the sort of the deeper connection of what it means to them and what it means to you to receive that gift. Thanking is incredibly important in the journey. So here's an example of how thanking can be both, a sincere, heartfelt thank you, but also a celebratory moment. So I invite Courtney back in at this moment to tell us how LeBois thanked and celebrated the success of their campaign. But actually, before you jump in there, Courtney, let's go to the next slide and play that little video, because I think that's a really lovely example. Audio.
It's been such an incredible response. We've got so many beautiful messages. Such an amazing theatre. Have been going there since 1973, from Karen M, legend, to everyone from 1975 and 1976. Lifelong friendships. Yes, Dr. Brian C. Wilson. A bastion of Australian theatre. Long live LeBois, Harrison Mills. What a wonderful, warm-hearted and vibrant theatre you are. Anon. We love you, Anon. Thank you for keeping theatre alive. Yes, Marty Blanchett. Thank you for nurturing all the incredible joy. Simon Betteridge, keep up the incredible and important work you do at LeBois. Tennille, love you, Tennille. $100 for 100 years. Congrats to all who keep LeBois in our community. From Wendy. We've had so many incredible arts educators contribute to our Giving Day today. I just want to give a massive shout out to Judith McLean, John Saunders, Madonna Stinson, Moana Dunn, Julie Dunn, John O'Toole, Natalie Lazarou, Brad Hazeman, Naomi Russell, Adrian Jones, Lucy Harkin, Michael Anderson, Sandra Gattenhoff, Susan Chapman, Alana Shepherd, Jenny Boyne, Grace Lloyding, Evelyn Chapman, Josephine Wise, Tessa Rickson, and Nikki Pelgrave. Thank you so much.
So that's a really lovely little example of how LeBois thank people in the moment, immediately, throughout the day. And so, Courtney, if you're there, if you could, just share a little bit about how you thank people on the day and throughout the day, but also after the day.
What we noticed was that so many of the names that were coming through, particularly through the middle part of the day, were legendary and iconic arts educators. And I think because we are a theatre company, and I think Queensland has a strong history of theatre and education roots. So the ties between arts educators and cultural institutions are quite close. A lot of them sit on our boards. A lot of them sit in teachers' advisory groups within organisations. They're just very close, like they're very, very close and precious relationships. And I noticed, and I was like, I really want to do a shout out specifically to the arts educator cohort that have contributed to our Giving Day, particularly because I think across the country, but particularly in Queensland, arts education is under threat. And I think that their act of giving was such an incredible moment when they're feeling the pinch of stripped resources and cut budgets. And I just thought it was so important to in real time thank them on our social media channels. So we just kind of decided to do that off the cuff, and we just pulled that list together really, really quickly so that I could give them a big thank you. We had looked at the amazing State Theatre Company of South Australia's Giving Day. They had run their Giving Day a couple of days before us, and we had seen their amazing thank you video. But because we're a smaller, rougher, around the edges theatre company, a produced thank you video like the one that we produced to launch our campaign, I don't know, it just didn't quite feel right in the moment for me because of the way we've been engaging with it. I was like texting people like, thank you so much in real time as I saw their name coming up on our board. So I was like, I want to kind of keep that vibe going in all of the communications that are going out, because that felt the most authentic to me and to the organization in the moment. So you can see me there, so exhausted and rough as anything, just at the tail end of the campaign. But I was like, I want to do this today. I want to let everyone know, because people were still watching and saying, they had donated earlier in the day and they were sending us texts going, you're getting so close. So people really were invested and following along. And then after the campaign had wrapped up, I had worked with our amazing venue and operations manager to pull all of the data around the people who had contributed over the day. We had been able to identify who wanted to remain anonymous and who were comfortable being named. So we peeled out all of the donors who wanted to remain anonymous, and made sure that they didn't receive a personal email from me because they had requested not to. But we did send them a follow-up email that I think that you had brought up in the previous slide. But aside from that email that kind of went out, that yes, it is kind of generic in a way, because you can see that it's got Laboit font on there, and it looks like a produced email. So that definitely did go out to everyone who contributed on the day. But then everyone else who was happy to be named, I got that list, and I spent the weekend going back and emailing every single one of those donors myself from my personal email with a quick note, just to, naming what the relationship was, if I knew it, and if I didn't know them, I made sure that I was able to say in that email, thank you so much for the love you've shown for the company. I really, really appreciate it and really look forward to meeting you in the foyer one day. And so that was amazing. And that I feel like after that, I feel like I've got such a specific understanding of who our donors are, because there's faces to names, there was messages, there's been that real-time engagement. So that's what we did. And I think it's had such an impact, because we did that on the 4th of June, and it's August tomorrow, and people are still talking about how incredible the Giving Day was for Laboit. So yeah, it was an incredible experience. But that's kind of the way we did it. It was lo-fi. It wasn't hugely pre-planned and strategized, but there was live strategy that was kind of coming through as we were planning how we were going to thank everyone. And I think our kind of North Star that was kind of guiding us through all of that was, how do we stay authentic to the voice of the company? And yeah.
Excellent, thank you. And I think that's really important that you sort of kept that North Star in sight, but I think a beautiful way to share and celebrate and thank people. So thank you for offering that today. So I'll quickly just show a little bit of the kind of comms that social media comms that Canberra Youth Theatre had there to celebrate their success. A lovely kind of celebratory moment. Again, in line with the kind of ethos and the aesthetic of the company. So I'll move on now to the final phase of a giving day, and so that is the ongoing stewardship. So that you thank immediately, and then there's got to be work after the day, and the days beyond. So first foremost is immediate and personalized thanks. So ideally a call or a phone call, that personalized email within 24 hours or the weekend, whatever makes sense there, really goes a long way. And then that can't be the end of the story. So there needs to be ongoing relevant updates. And so, letting people know, letting people know about your ongoing success. And so they need to know the impact of the work, photos, quotes, short videos, whatever brings your work to life over the long term, particularly if you're fundraising for a really specific cause. People need to have so there needs to be those ongoing regular updates, and it's a form of impact reporting, and then priority communication. So in the longer term, you need to make sure that if you're launching a new initiative or you're appearing in the media, you tell your existing donors first. Don't let them hear about it secondhand. Make them feel like insiders. And I think that's part of what this opportunity allows you to kind of grow that community of people that feel like they're insiders, because they followed you all throughout the day. They really kept on the journey with you. And so as one donor is quoted to have said, I don't want to find out what's happening with an organization I'm backing by reading it in the paper. I want to feel like I'm part of the team. That's the key. Your donors want to feel like they belong. When they do, their support deepens. So we know that what donors actually want, they want you to call them to say thank you. They want you to tell them before the public does, and they want you to share real stories, not just reports. And so be human and not corporate. And so just inviting Caitlin now back into the conversation. So we heard from Courtney about how you thank people on the day itself. And Caitlin, do you want to just talk a little bit about what's happened since the day and what engagement has looked like for Canberra Youth Theatre with those who supported since the campaign? It's been, a couple of months now.
Yeah, I think the main thing that mattered to me was the fact that we raised for access. Like that was the big tagline. And so when we sat down and we had the organizational meeting where we were like, where does that money go? I immediately chucked the data in terms of like how many bursary positions, how many organizations, the fact that like the 12-hour theatre project for next year is already completely funded. And I chucked it into a very nice like graphic. And then I sent a personal email to each of our donors that basically said, hey, and then insert your personalized comment, which is like for a lot of them, we have a massive matrix that essentially says their connection to our organization. And if they have a young person, what their young person's name is. It's different for us as a youth theatre because we engage with the young people, but our donors and our quote unquote customers are the adults. So for us, it's really important that if I'm emailing someone, I'm going, hey, Adam, hope Lacey is doing right and enjoying our 1 to 3s ensemble, or we miss Soul Trading a lot. I hope she still has fond memories of that show. So articulating the point of connection, because we don't actually serve the adults. And then basically I said, I'm just touching base to figure out we know where the money's going. And this is where the money's going. Because I think people want to know what they're spending their money on. And that was our big middle phase. Our next phase that we're planning right now is, luckily enough, one of the kids I teach is actually a bursary recipient. And when he found out, was like, can I say thank you? And so our final level is that when our term 3 programs have ended, there'll actually be a personal thank you from this young artist that'll go out to those donors, basically to say, without your support, I wouldn't be able to afford this program. And that's why I'm here. Which is great. And it's all like lo-fi, like it's me on my iPhone and then going into iMovie for 10 minutes to clip the ends and then doing it from my personal account. But for us, the middle and the long-term communications is about impact reporting. And our long-term goal is that by 12-hour next year, there will be an impact report published on our website that will have qualitative and quantitative data relating to the impact of where that money went, where it went and what it meant to our community.
Beautiful, amazing, and yeah, really love that. Love the way you've fed back to the donors what their support has meant. Excellent, and that feeds into my last little section here on this last post-campaign stewardship, and I'll just sort of touch on it briefly because we are moving towards the end of the webinar, and that's just how you build systems around gratitude. So this thanking, we know it's really key. We know because you run these campaigns that you can be quite exhausted by the end of it, and so really just thinking about how that matrix that Caitlin mentioned is one system you can build around gratitude, and to make sure that you have systems which ensure that it can happen. And so, some systems you can build there are assigning responsibilities. So who thanks who at what level? Different donors at different tiers thanked by different people. You want to map out the touch points at the outset to make sure that you sort of don't forget that thanking. Templates. So how to use templates. And so Caitlin there sort of touched on it sounded almost like a templated email. Dear so-and-so, insert personal fact. And then you have a common paragraph and then insert another personal fact. So you're not rewriting the email from scratch every single time. You've got elements that you can copy and paste, but you also are personalizing them. So that's a sort of a key way to make gratitude something you can embed within the organization and embed within a campaign. And lastly, video is your friend. So that kind of lo-fi fun, it doesn't have to be swish video necessarily, but it really gives people a sense of being part of it and seeing people, seeing people's physical excitement and their faces and kind of being involved. So use video where you can. Okay, so last little insights and learnings from our incredible guests. So just bringing Caitlin and Courtney back into the conversation for a last time before we sort of wrap up. So can you each, starting with Courtney, could you each give us let us share with us one piece of advice you wish you had when you started your Giving Day campaign? So if you go back in time, what would you advise yourself? And lastly, what was the highlight of the campaign for you? So just starting with Courtney.
Um, I think it's easier said than done, but I think not to not to give in to the overwhelm. I think that it feels like a really definitely for us, it felt like a really huge project, and I think there were definitely times where the team were like, "Oh, we can't take on anything extra right now. This feels huge, and do we have what it takes to be able to um I guess, execute this in the way that it needs to be done." And I think that, the one piece of advice that charity did give us that absolutely ring true is now. And I think, when we do it again next year will be the case. It is to not overthink it. I think, it's exciting. And I think staying excited about what this could be the start of, I think is probably the biggest piece of advice. I think, and trust your instincts. I think, using if you're collaborating with an organization to deliver the giving day, I think even in that instance, there's still room to make it bespoke, and there's still room to kind of have your stamp on it and have your voice as an organization, and make sure that your values are up front and center. I think that's really key. I think that the ways in which all of our various organizations, from all the people who are on the call, engage with donors and fundraise and generate income for their organizations are so highly linked to values. That's what we are as not-for-profits, is, we're all kindred spirits and wanting to change the world. So we're all values-led organizations. And so, knowing that there absolutely is, and there is space to be able to link it to all of that and make it feel really holistically linked to your vision. That's kind of what I would say. And then I guess the biggest, there were so many amazing takeaways from the day. I think for me, I there were definitely people who had told me that there weren't a lot of donors around La Boite, and I had started to absorb that narrative a little bit, and I was really nervous about the day. And I think that kind of deficit mindset can be really challenging to overcome, and it can also just be challenging, day to day when you're trying to push a vision forward and a worthwhile cause forward. But it's was absolutely not the case. I think I was so moved, and I was so blown away by the numbers. Not only that, but the particular people who showed up for the company on that day. We had a lot of artists, a lot of emerging artists who've come through our amazing, artist development programs, giving what they have. Like, those donations to me were so meaningful, because we all know that artists live in that gig economy, and their income is variable. And I think when you see that, that makes the overwhelm worth it. So yeah, there was so many amazing takeaways, but I think the love that we felt for the company gave me the confidence, as in my position, that our values and our vision and the work that we're doing and the way that we're engaging our community are really closely aligned.
Beautiful. Thank you. Amazing. Yeah, great to hear that. That advice if you go back in time. So, Caitlin, bringing you back into the conversation, what's one piece of advice you wish you had when you started your Giving Day campaign, and what was the highlight of the campaign for you?
One thing I wish I had done, and this is a very practical recommendation, but I was so exhausted at the end of the campaign that getting the thanks done was a slog. And retrospectively, I actually wish I had prepared my thank you material as part of the quiet period, because that's just a spoon thing. I would have felt much better about my life if I wasn't exhausted. And I think having the capacity to actually prepare every part of the giving day, not just the actual ask, but to prepare the thank you, would have saved me energy. And I wish I'd done it when I had more, I guess, more attention span. One thing that worked really well for us was going in with numbers and being able to articulate value, the capacity to go, a $450 donation powers anniversary for one term. The social impact of that is this, because people will ask. And it's really great to go, oh, this event costs this much money. If we get this much money, we can run this event free of charge and it pays for artists and stuff. So having that data prepared was one of the best things we prepped. And then I think that the celebratory moment is a similar thing, I think, to what you said, Courtney, was like one, me speaking and then watching people pick up their phones to donate and turn to the QR code, being like, oh, I can just tell you my story and I can tell you that like youth arts fights disconnection and helps people belong, and you'll believe that and you'll pay for that. And then seeing donations from like the Canberra Youth Theatre emerging artists that are working the bar for us, like going, you have just donated to us the wage you earn in the last hour while we paid for you to be on bar. And that, like, knowing some of those young people, because I work with them, and knowing that, like, they don't have disposable income and watching them still be like, yeah, I'll chuck you $15 is a very profound thing to watch them do. Because they don't have that money, but deciding that Canberra Youth Theatre was worth it anyway because of their connection to it did make me cry a little, which may have gotten more donations. So it's a very generous circle. Who knows?
Oh, that's so beautiful. So absolutely love it. Thank you. And thank you both of you to Courtney and Caitlin for sharing your experiences today. I'm sure it's inspired and informed others. And yeah, as we head into this exciting National Giving Day of the Arts, really appreciate your contribution. So thank you so much for joining us. And
Yeah,
handing
really
back
cool.
over to my colleague Michelle to just do the final wrap up and any questions.
Thank you so much. It's really been wonderful, I have to say. I've really enjoyed this chat. Thanks, Courtney and Caitlin. I've just got a couple of bits of information here, and if anyone has any questions, now's the time. So I'll just share this last bit of information, and Gillian is also here to answer any questions. So we've got kind of 6 or 7 minutes left on the call. So please, if you've got any questions, please put them in the chat. But just to let you know, so what is next? So we will be running a digital fundraising webinar with Marlin Communications on the 2nd of September. The time is there. That is the sharing of the digital assets for Oz Art Day. We will also be running a final reflection and preparation on Monday, the 8th of September at that time. And then, of course, Giving Day to the Arts takes place on the 23rd of October. Gillian, anything else to add to that? Or I'll just move through.
Brilliant, thank you. I do just want to share, so if there are any of you that are representing the organisation that you're working for and you're waiting to receive an update on your microgrant application, that information will be shared with you in the next 2 weeks. And then in early August, we will also reach out to everyone that's on the call today and also those that have applied for a microgrant in sharing with them that the registration link to participate in the Giving Day will be live. That registration process is important both for you and for us because the information that's shared through that registration process will be featured on a dedicated landing page on the Creative Australia website. And that landing page will be the destination for both our advertising and editorial activity that we are delivering as part of the wraparound of this program. That will kick off from, say, early September and then go right through until the 23rd of October. I just also wanted to share, please do, if you are intending to participate, that registration link will close at the end of September, which just allows us to create some beautiful content that'll be featured on our website. And of course, as part of that registration process, your fundraising link is required so that people can land on our page and land on your page. That is really important. Also, just wanted to share with you too that we are undertaking some additional advocacy around this initiative, knowing that it's new. In addition to the advertising and editorial promotions that we will be delivering, we're also engaging with Philanthropy Australia. We're speaking to their arts funder network in early September to promote this activity. And yeah, really excited about the kind of early interest that we've received from that community. If I can just take a very quick moment to say thank you to Courtney and Caitlin. I think both of the examples that you've shared today in an online context, but also in the live and kind of the hybrid Giving Day campaigns, are an excellent example of the diversity in ways people can participate, including also collaborating with the likes of charity and/or Give Now, or going alone. Courtney, you mentioned that delivering a Giving Day so soon in your tenure being a gift for you. I also think that would have been an amazing gift for your donors too, to get to know you so well through that process. And Caitlin, your reference to the 12 in 12, $12,000 in 12 hours is a super clever tagline or campaign identity that I'm sure helped drive that momentum on the day. So thank you to you both for so generously sharing in those very sophisticated donor strategies and enabling this peer learning today. Thank you. Okay,
Thanks.
jumping
so
to
much.
questions. Sorry, Courtney.
I've just got up on the screen there, Gillian, for everybody, anybody looking to continue the conversation around fundraising strategy for the Giving Day, for Oz Art Day. I've put up there state manager development and partnerships across the country. So Hannah and I are listed there, of course, for our jurisdictions. Please take a note of our email addresses and, of course, contact our colleagues across the country, wherever you're dialing in from. Let us know if you'd like to touch base after this to nut out your fundraising strategy. Questions?
Fab. I might jump in on one that has just landed in the inbox, if that's okay. I'll read it out and then respond, and open to all to contribute to, should you like. So is there a concern that having a collective national giving day, we risk donor fatigue or create a zero-sum feeling on leading up to the day? So this is an excellent question, and thank you for asking the question. We see this opportunity as another moment in the calendar year to raise the profile of the need for arts fundraising. And in doing so, in picking our date in October, we have deliberately stayed away from the end of financial year, of which all charities are working towards an end of tax donation contribution. The second consideration around delivering a nationwide and sector-wide Giving Day is to actually flip this competition and donor fatigue rationale to actually look at how the critical mass of a sector can work together to raise the profile in a way that we expand this donor pool. Already we know we have a finite resources, but also somewhat of a limited pool of arts donors. And this initiative is actually about expanding beyond those art donors, heading into mainstream Australia to say, hey, can you support us too? That's the intent. So thank you for raising the question. Happy to have a conversation with yourself if that was of interest. And Hannah and Michelle, Courtney and Caitlin, welcome your thoughts here too.
Absolutely, Gillian. I think it's a really powerful collective movement. And noting that, that's really worthwhile. Note that every end of financial year is already a noisy period. So we have these noisy periods, and this is creating space from that. Just looking at the chat, we haven't had any kind of new questions pop through in the last couple of minutes. There's been some throughout the conversation, mainly quite specific questions. One I will kind of just touch on in case it's of interest to others is, can a volunteer or very small organisation run a Giving Day? Just thinking about the resources, resource intensive kind of activity. Obviously, volunteers can be enlisted in this work. We have a case study of a small organisation. A small organisation who participated on our website, Circus WA. So that's worth looking at. It's doable, especially if you list volunteers. But happy to, if you reach out to our state manager, development and partnerships, if you have particular interests with your knowing what's suitable for you. Okay, that puts us right on time. Thank you from me for participating today. Thanks again to Caitlin and Courtney. Thanks again to Michelle for being here with me.
And thank you to our audience for joining us. We
Yeah,
look
thank you to our
forward
audience.
to we look forward to Giving Day in 23 October.
Can't wait.